Welcome to WhatGear Reviews. In this video, I'm going to show you guys my step-by-step setup guide for the Galaxy Z Fold 6 and the things that I actually do myself with all new Samsung Galaxy phones. I've been using Samsung Galaxy phones since the S3, so that's over a decade of using Galaxy phones. And over the course of time, of course, I have a certain style when it comes to setting up a phone, and I'm not suggesting that you follow every single step, but instead just kind of use this video as inspiration for how to set up your phone so that it's tailored for you specifically. And for authenticity, I have a brand new Samsung Galaxy sealed in the box, and we're going to start right at the beginning. Now this particular step here is optional, so you can actually agree to the end user license, but you might want to disagree to sending diagnostic data. This goes to Samsung and they can kind of see what features you're using on the phone or not. It's entirely up to you if you want to disable that. Now when it comes to actually transferring stuff from your old device, I recommend you actually set it up manually instead of using the transfer software. The reason I say that is because if you're coming over from another device that has bloatware on it, and that's quite a lot of devices these days. If you use that tool, quite often all of that bloatware from the previous device will be downloaded here on your Samsung device, and it's not really necessary. So I prefer to start with a clean slate, and I recommend you do the same. And I will show you how to transfer across all of your videos and photos and apps if you want without the bloatware. Now when it comes to the SIM tray, there are tiny little markings on here indicating SIM 1 and SIM 2. If you only have one SIM, then you definitely just want to use SIM 1. That's the one at the end. And you can have two SIMs that run simultaneously if you want. So of course you've got to sign in with your Google account. If you don't have one already, you need to set one up. Now when you get to this page, the Google services, there's a few things you want to keep an eye out for. It's the device backup, that's good to leave on. Location is good to leave on. Allow scanning, so this is an interesting one. You could switch it off. This assists Google services with what's around you, so it can detect other Wi-Fi networks and Bluetooth signals to help with location services and things like that. If you're worried about privacy, you could turn that off. And also this could potentially save some power. And once again, we've got the diagnostic data. Again, you can switch this off. If you don't want to send anonymous information to Google, you could actually switch this off and it won't affect how your phone works. So make a decision about those two things. I'm going to turn the diagnostic data off. Now on this page, you definitely want to set up a Samsung account, and you'll see why a little later on in the video. If you just created a Google account, that's probably the best way to sign up for a Samsung account. Just sign in with Google, nice and easy. Then you've got your T's and C's, special terms, and that's to do with Samsung apps. I recommend you leave that on, and also turn on offline finding. When it comes to the Samsung services, it's a good idea to leave all of these on. They do help the phone run better. And when it comes to choosing between light and dark mode, I always go dark mode for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's just a bit softer on the eyes. And second of all, it does save a little bit of power, as both screens on this phone are AMOLED and they don't use power in the dark areas of the screen. So it's more efficient, and I actually just prefer the look of it. We can actually set this to switch between light mode and dark mode depending on the time of day. Okay, so that's the first few steps. Now, this is a very expensive phone, and there is something that I recommend you do straight away because you need to protect your investment. You don't want to lose your phone and then not be able to find it. So if we go to the app drawer, you'll see the Samsung folder up here in the top left corner. If you go to that, you'll see the Find app, which looks like this. Go into this, set it up, give it all the permissions that it needs, and set it to while using the app. And it will say you need to give it access to run all the time. So hit the settings and go to all the time here. That way, if your phone ever goes missing, it'll be very easy to track down. And if you have other Samsung devices, those will also appear in the Find app. The next thing to do is to set up biometrics. And this particular phone, the fingerprint reader's on the right-hand side. So the fingers you're likely to use the most is your first finger on your right hand, your thumb on your right hand, and then your first finger on your left hand. So to set up your biometrics, if you bring down the settings page here, we can navigate manually to the page where it is, but if you just go to the search icon here and type in biometrics, you'll see it pops up straight away. It's in the security and privacy folder, and it highlights the biometrics here when you first navigate to the page. And here I recommend you do the fingerprints. The face unlock is not as secure as the fingerprints. That's why I don't use it so much. However, if you're all about convenience and speed, then the face unlock is definitely faster than trying to find the fingerprint reader. You just literally pick up your phone and it will detect you. Now, when it comes to registering fingerprints, it is just a case of resting your finger, taking it off, resting it on again, and just completing the percentage here with one finger at a time, and just kind of roll your finger around as well so it gets all of the different edges, because you might not hit it in exactly the same way every time you pick up the phone. Once you've done the first one, just hit add in the bottom left corner and do your thumb in exactly the same way, then hit add again and do your first finger on your left hand, and you'll notice the way you touch with your left hand will be a bit more of a hooking motion as opposed to a resting motion. So now you've set that up, you can unlock the device like this, and when it's closed you can also unlock it with this finger if you need to. So you'll notice when you get a fresh default 6 that it actually defaults to the classic Samsung navigation system, which is the 3 buttons. So it's your backgrounding, your home button and your back button. There's nothing wrong with this, and it's also reflected here on the cover screen as well. Now if you like this style, then definitely stick with it, but sticking with the theme of this video, one of the first things I always do is switch this to gestures. So let me show you how to do that. So to get to your settings, just swipe down from the top and you'll see the settings cog up here. If you tap that, once again, instead of navigating manually to where the setting is, if we just use the little magnifying glass here, we can search the system for the setting we're looking for, and it is the navigation. And then you will see straight away navigation bar, and underneath you'll see where it is within the settings. It's in the display settings, which is not that obvious to be honest. Then if you scroll down, you'll see navigation bar, and then here you can set it to swipe gestures. That way it just frees up that bit of space there and makes it a little bit less cluttered, and it will be much more familiar to you if you're coming over from an iPhone or a Pixel phone or another Android phone that uses gestures by default. Okay, so now we've got a blank canvas. And this is the next thing that I always do. It is to customize the wallpaper. I do like the wallpapers here by default. They're kind of animated ones. So when you open the screen, it actually has a little animation on the wallpaper itself, which is nice. And it works pretty nice here on the cover screen too. However, if you want to make the phone more unique to you and not just like every other Samsung Galaxy Z Fold out there, then you want to do this. You can hold your finger down on an empty spot on the screen, and you should have a lot of it because it's a brand new phone. This pops up with your customization options for the home screen. So here you'll see wallpaper and style, and if you go to change wallpaper, you have a bunch of different preset ones, and you'll notice there are folding animation ones. These ones are really nice, but they might be a little bit boring. So if you want to spice it up a bit, you could try this out. Just go to the generative. This uses a bit of the Samsung AI to create something unique based on what you like the look of. So you've got these different styles across the top. I particularly like the look of this style, but with less pink ideally. So I'm going to go for realistic. Salt Lake, let's stick with that. And instead of pink, let's make it purple. Indigo. There we go, generate. And there we go, we've got some really nice wallpapers here. I actually like that first one. So I'm gonna set that to the home screen and the lock screen for now. But actually, I do prefer to use my own wallpapers. So I'm gonna show you a couple of wallpapers that I've AI enhanced, particularly for the Z Fold. And if you like the look of any of these wallpapers in this video, just leave me a comment and I'll send you a Google Drive link to them. So these two right here have actually AI expanded so that they will fit the unfolded screen on this phone. And they can also be cropped for the cover screen. So to change the wallpaper, again, just pinch, go to wallpaper and style. Here, go to change wallpaper. And I'm gonna go to gallery this time and choose my own. Let's go with this one. And that's gonna be for the lock screen, Master Yoda. Gonna hit done there. Then I'm going to go to the Stormtrooper one, and this one's going to be for the home screen only. There we go. And then something else we can actually do, and this is really cool, is if you scroll down within the wallpaper section, this little AI section here, we can add some effects to the lock screen wallpaper based on your location. And if you hit the little play button down here, you can see how that works. So it's adding a bit of a rain effect if it's raining outdoors, and it will add a snow effect if it's snowing outdoors. That's just a cool little addition to the wallpaper. You might as well add it because it is actually pretty useful. Right, so now we've got the wallpaper set up. We've got the Stormtrooper here. We've got the Master Yoda there. I'm quite happy with that. And look at that. It's actually showing sun rays right now because for a change, it is actually very sunny in England. It's actually 30 degrees today. And check that out. I've never seen that animation before because the weather's usually so bad here. Anyway, moving on. So check this out. When you bring down your quick settings, you'll notice you have all the system default colors, and that applies to the notification shade as well and other areas of the system UI. Now you can change this up and personalize it a bit. So that's something I always do. So if you pinch the home screen or hold on an empty space, go to wallpaper and style. Here you'll see the color palette section. And right now we just have this kind of blue, white and black color palette, which is kind of boring. So if you enable this, you get a bunch of different options that can really liven up the user interface. So you get an idea of what it will look like up here at the top when you apply these. I do like this one with the blue icons, and you can swipe across to see how they will look here on the calculator and things like that. I'm going to go with this one here. And if you really want to simplify the colors, you can go to the basic section and dial in your own sort of two tones or solid colors. So now you'll notice the titles up here are blue. When I bring down the notification shade, we got blue and dark blue and the gray that was there before. Okay, so this next step might be controversial due to the AI additions on the Samsung keyboard, but something I do pretty much with all Samsung phones is download the Gboard, and I do use the Samsung keyboard as well, but I'll show you how I use that in this video. So if you are coming over from iPhone, the iOS keyboard is very good, particularly at predicting text and correcting things for you. The Samsung keyboard can do all of that stuff and it's pretty good, but I find myself having to delete mistakes more often, and sometimes it's adding full stops when I don't want it to. So this keyboard right here, the official Google keyboard, for me is actually much more comfortable to write on than the Samsung keyboard. So once you downloaded it, go to the little switch here to enable it, and then at the top where it says default keyboard, go there and enable the Gboard as your default keyboard. Trust me, I think you'll thank me for this one later, but I will show you why having the Samsung keyboard is very useful a little later on in the video. Now, if you want to switch back to the Samsung keyboard, you just tap the little icon here at the bottom that looks like a little keyboard. Tap that, and then you'll get the option to switch back to the Samsung keyboard here. Now, the difference is with the Samsung keyboard, you get the AI feature. So here you can use AI Compose, where you can actually get it to write something for you. So you just give it an idea of what you're trying to write and it will compose it for you. It can also correct your style of writing with writing styles, and it can also check the grammar. And actually for the big screen, it works really, really well. But when you're using the smaller screen, the errors that you get sometimes when you're writing become a bit more of a problem. So that's why I use the Gboard. But I do have an interesting way of using the Samsung keyboard when I need it, which I will show you. So now that I've actually switched back to the Samsung keyboard, just to show you that last tip, it's actually very difficult to get back to the Gboard without diving into the settings and finding it and enabling it. But there is a quick way for this, and that is to actually add the Gboard app to one of your home screens. So just bring up your app drawer. You'll see the Gboard icon here. I'm just going to put it on page 2 on the device for now, and I'm going to show you where I normally keep this on Samsung phones. And I'm just going to enable the Gboard again. Just open the app, and then you can select the input method and change it back to the default keyboard. Now, if you are the type of person who's going to stick with the Samsung keyboard, there is one thing I absolutely recommend you do, particularly when it comes to writing on the home screen. So check this out. So we're going to switch back to the Samsung keyboard one more time just to show you this. Now, once you've got the Samsung keyboard open, go into the settings, the little cog here, tap that, scroll down to this section where you see swipe, touch and feedback. And then here, keyboard swipe controls, and enable swipe to type. So now next time you're writing on the outer cover display, it's much easier to write because you can just slide your finger around, and it's actually very good at predicting text in this particular mode. And as you can see, the keys are very, very close together when using the cover screen. So for me, this is absolutely necessary. And this is how the Gboard looks if you switch to that for the cover screen. And again, the same thing applies. You can actually use the swipe gestures. You don't have to enable it with the Gboard, and it works just as well as the Samsung keyboard. Okay, so this next one is something that I do. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but the power key right now, if you hold it down, it opens up Bixby. Now, Bixby is very good if you have lots of other Samsung devices, smart home stuff, the watches and things like that. You can start workouts and stuff using your voice, but to be honest, I never really use it. So I remap this straight away, and this is how you do it. Go into your settings, just swipe down your notification shade, go to the settings icon, and you can actually navigate to it manually by going to advanced features and then side button. But if you want to, you could just hit the little magnifying glass and type in side button. That's a much quicker way to get to it. Now on the side button, I switched the push and hold to power menu, and I also changed the double press of the power key to open my Google Wallet. And that brings me onto the Google Wallet because it's not installed yet. So if we go into the Play Store, type in Wallet and install this. I am actually thinking about testing out the Samsung Wallet. I haven't used it for quite a few years now. Maybe it's better than it was before, but all of my cards are already kind of linked to my Google account. So this just seems to be the better way to do it for me right now. So now I've got this set up, bring up the backgrounding, go back to that settings page. And then here on the double tap, go to open app. And then here I can just search for wallet, choose that. And now that's all done. So double tap here on the power key. Whenever I want to pay for something in a shop, I just double tap and it opens up the Google Wallet and I can instantly pay, whether the phone's open or closed. And because the power key is also the fingerprint sensor as well, it's twice as quick. So you can spend your money even faster. So if you do need to add another Google account, there's a few ways to do it. But one of the easier ways to do it is to actually open up Gmail and then in the top right corner, hit your little logo and then go to add another account. And that way you can add your Google account here and it will add it to the system as well. So when it comes to downloading apps and installing apps, you can use that account as opposed to the work account, what I had used initially when I set the phone up. Okay, so the next step is a very important one and it will happen automatically, but this is the best way to get started because some Google services won't work properly until you do this. So if you go to your Play Store and go to your little icon in the top corner and go to Manage Apps on Device, here you'll see if there are any updates available for the existing apps. And a lot of these are normally Google official apps. And if you don't do this, some of the Google services won't work properly until they're updated. And straight away, you should see them sort of pending and ready to download. So some of the important stuff like the Gmail, the Google Assistant, the Gboard, all of these things, Google Partner Setup, the Wi-Fi Provisioner, these are very important tools. And there is another bunch of apps that you must update for your phone to work perfectly on day one, which a lot of people once again will overlook. So let me show you that. So on your home screen, you should see this, the store. This is Samsung's own app store, separate from the Google Play Store. This is the main one. This is the one you should be using most of the time. But a lot of the pre-installed apps from Samsung live here, and a lot of them won't be up to date straight out of the box. So to update these apps, if you go to the menu here, you'll see 41 updates. You might have a different number, but I've got 41 updates that need to be done on this device. And these are important. So make sure you update all of these as well. On day one, you can wait for the automatic update, but you never know, you might be using your phone for 3 or 4 days and these will still be running the older versions of the apps. And therefore your phone won't be running at its optimal performance. And you will notice when you look at some of these apps, they're very important. For example, the language core, the customization service, the authentication framework if you're going to use the Samsung password manager, and also the Find My Phone feature, which I already showed you guys earlier on in this video. Okay, so now you're all up to date. Here's something that I always add to Google phones nowadays, because we do have the Google Assistant. This is fantastic for general search and things like that. You can tap the mic here and ask it anything you want. And you can also swipe up from the corner here to open the Assistant, and you can use your voice as well. But there is a better AI out there right now from Google. It is called Gemini. So if you go to the Play Store, search for Gemini, it will look like this, and it will be from Google LLC. Install that and open it. Click continue and go to use Gemini. Now what you can actually do, if you go into your icon here at the top, you can switch the Google Assistant to Gemini instead. And there we go, it's now set up. Now this particular search bar remains as the standard Google Assistant, but if you swipe up diagonally, it brings up the Gemini Assistant. And if you want to use this when you're on a website, for example, what you can actually do is, let's say I go to this website here, reject all the cookies, swipe up from the corner here, go to add to this screen, and it can actually assess what's on screen for you, kind of like the circle to search, but it can actually use URLs to search as well. So you can type in whatever it is you want it to do, and it can summarize stuff for you. And there are other ways to do this as well, but I do find the Gemini Assistant to be more useful when it comes to more complex things in comparison to the standard Google Assistants. So if you do this, now you actually have the best of both worlds. You've got the standard Google Assistant, and then you've also got Gemini Assistant. Okay, so there is a decision to make here, and this is entirely up to you. But for me personally, I use Google Chrome on my computers and on other devices that I have, and it has all of my passwords linked to my Google account. However, if you're in the Samsung ecosystem, you could use the Samsung password manager. If you're happy with that, stick with it. But if you want to change it to the Google password manager, here's how to do it. Bring down your settings. I'm going to use the search tool, type in passwords, and then you'll see this. So it's in the general settings section, and it's passwords, passkeys, and autofill. And if you scroll down, you'll see the passwords here. And right now it's got the Samsung Pass and the Google. So the Google one is enabled. That's the one that I'm going to be using to autofill passwords for my account. Just change the preferred service to Google, trust the app, and there we go. Now it's using Google Password Manager as opposed to the Samsung Password Manager. Again, that's completely optional. You don't have to do that one if you're happy with the Samsung Password Manager. Okay, now let's talk about setting up the apps. Some of the things here you might want to keep on the home screen. Some of them you might not. So the best thing to do is actually just get rid of everything. So if you hold your finger down, hit remove, hold your finger down, hit remove. The Play Store I'm going to keep, but on the second page, because it's not something I use every day. I'll only ever use that when I need to download an app. I do prefer the Google Calendar, so I'm going to get rid of this. I'm not uninstalling it, I'm just removing it from the home screen. The Samsung Store I will use, but again, I'm not going to use it every day, so that's going across to the second screen. And there we go, we've got a blank canvas to work with. In the center, you'll see the weather widget from Samsung. I actually don't use this one on this screen, so I'm going to remove that as well. What I do use on pretty much every phone, and people ask me about all the time, is the clock widget that I use on my phones, and it's actually this. So if we type in Google Clock, this comes pre-installed on Pixel phones. That's where I first discovered it, but it is available for anybody with an Android device. So the Google Clock also has timers and stopwatch and all that stuff. But once you've installed that, just pinch the home screen, go to widgets here at the bottom, scroll down, and you'll see the Google Clock here. And I always go with this one, the analog scallop style. So I'm going to add this to the main home screen right here. I also see no reason why the Google Assistant search bar should be this wide all the way across the screen. It's not necessary. It's good to have it in a place where your thumb can reach quickly. So just there is fine. Now the next thing to do is of course download all of your most used apps. And for this you're going to use the Google Play Store. So spend a bit of time, have a look at your existing device and go through the apps that you have there and just install the ones that you know you're going to use. Don't install all of the other random stuff that you've downloaded over the years. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so once you've downloaded all your apps, they now all live in the app drawer, and you'll notice straight away when you look at this thing, it's all over the place. It's not in any particular order. The phone does try to predict what apps are most important to you. And to be honest, I'm not a fan of this. So this is something I always do. Hit the three dots in the app drawer, go to sort, and go to alphabetical order. Now that way, everything that I just downloaded is exactly where it should be. And trust me, this is going to save you a lot of time when it comes to finding apps that don't live on the home screen. So before we start placing these apps, there is something that you should do straight away, and that is pinch the home screen, go to your settings here, and have a look at the grid sizes. So on the big screen, it will be set to 6x6, which is fine. That's the maximum grid size you can have here. But on the cover screen, it is slightly different. So you will notice on the cover screen, we've still got the stock wallpaper and we've still got all of the apps that we deleted from the big screen. And that's because these screens actually work independently. That's for a good reason. You don't really want this to mirror the inside of the device, because what will happen is it'll start to get real messy real quickly. So here, to get started, just get rid of everything off of the main screen that you're not going to use all of the time. There we go. And you'll notice we only have 4 apps across the bottom. I'm not a fan of this. I like to have 5 apps across the bottom because that's how it is on all my other phones. So to change this, just pinch the screen, go to settings here, and then on the home screen grid, change this to 5x6. Now we've actually got an extra space here at the bottom of the screen. And if we swipe up, something that I always add to the bottom of the screen is WhatsApp, because WhatsApp is one of my go-to messengers. Also, you'll notice the Samsung Internet is here. This is not where I like to have it. Even though there is some powerful AI tools in it, I do prefer to use Chrome as my browser most of the time. So I add this in the middle at the bottom instead. These are very important to me. So these stay here all of the time. Once again, I'm going to get rid of this weather widget and add the Google clock. Add this up here, and this also acts as a shortcut into the alarms and all that kind of stuff as well. So I am a fan of this one. Just going to shrink the size of it so it doesn't take up an extra row. Going to lift up the Google Assistant and just make it a bit smaller so there's more room for more apps. So instead of watching me place every single app, let me just do a little magic trick. Okay, so I'm still in the middle of placing my apps, but I wanted to show you this very quickly because this is a great organizational tip. So on the third screen where I have all my games and social media and stuff, on the cover screen, it's much less likely that you're going to be consuming content from Disney Plus or Prime or anything like that. So on the cover screen, I actually put these into folders. So in order to create a folder, you can just drag one app on top of another. So for example, let's find Prime Video, drag this up and onto the Disney Plus. Now, once the folder is created, if you hit the plus here, you can select multiple apps to move into that folder all in one go. So you don't have to do it individually. This is a massive time saver. And then at the top here, you can call it whatever you want. And I also do the same thing with the music streaming apps. So same thing, you can literally just find another music streaming app. Let's say YouTube Music. Drag it on top of Deezer there and hit the plus, and then I can add other music streaming services in there as well. Now the reason I do this is because I always add a music widget to the home screen. So if you just pinch, go to widgets, I'm going to use the Tidal one for this particular device. I sometimes use the YouTube Music. I'm going to add this one. So now I have a quick way to jump into Tidal just from here. And then I've also got my other services here. I sometimes use Spotify for podcasts and things like that. That's why I have that. Anyway, I'm going to crack on with this and I'll show you the end result. Okay, so now I've got my cover screen set up. Let me just run you through the pages that I have. So page 1 is everyday use. So things that I literally use every day. Page 2 is for work and for money. So I do have all my money apps in one folder there. I've also got ChatGPT as well, because even though I've got Gemini, I do like using ChatGPT for some things, for example, graphics and just asking it general questions. Sometimes it comes up with better results than Gemini. And then I have the Find here. I've got the Google at a glance widget at the top there, which has the weather and also the date, but it'll also say if there's any upcoming events that are linked to the calendar, it will show it here. So that's pretty cool. Page 3 is for audio and gaming, and I have the Tidal widget here. I've also got the device care widget. This is fantastic for clearing backgrounding apps. Just by hitting this little brush here, it will free up any RAM that's being unnecessarily used. So that's great to do right before you're about to do any gaming and things like that. So I've left a gap here because I want to show you something. I do add a widget here, and actually a series of widgets. So we can pinch the screen, go to widgets. Now, some really cool ones to use are the digital well-being. I really like this one because it lets me keep an eye on what apps I'm using a lot and how long I've been using the phone per day. And something I love about this particular one is if you hold your finger on it, go to settings, you can change the transparency on that all the way down so you don't get that background color there, and it doesn't ruin the wallpaper quite so much. Now, something else that I also do here is hold my finger on this, create a stack. I like to have the battery widget here as well. The great thing about the battery widget is it can also be transparent, and it will also show third-party headphones battery life as well. I do have the Buds and also the Galaxy Watch, so these will show up here once I connect them up to the app. There we go, the Buds and the case are showing up now, and then there's a space here for the watch as well. So that's another one. And then there's one more. Hold your finger down on the stack, go to the plus at the end. I'm going to add the Buds controller as well. Place that down, and once again, this can be transparent. It seems like all of the Samsung official apps can have the transparent background, which is really nice. So now I've got a bunch of tools all in one place on this very narrow display. So this is always, sometimes, and never, but never say never, because there's always time for a bit of Call of Duty or PlayStation and some music. So you might have noticed that I had all of my movie streaming services and music services all in folders on the cover screen. That's because if you're going to watch movies on this device, you're really going to do it here on the big display. And I have a similar formula for the setup. So the front page is things that I will use a lot, and also tools that I would use a lot. And then Page 2 will be more entertainment stuff. So I'm just going to set this up real quick now, and then I'll talk you through my setup. Okay, so now I've spent quite a bit of time setting up the big display exactly how I like it, and I'll just run through very quickly how I've set it up. So I've got the Google clock here, the Google Glance widget here, the battery widget here, and then also my car widget is there. Google search bar here. I've still got Gemini when I swipe up from here. You'll notice I have got rid of Samsung Internet and added the Chrome browser here instead, and that's because a lot of my accounts are linked to that. But I do still use the Samsung Internet because of its AI features, and I'll show you a very clever way in which I use that in a moment. So this is pretty much everyday stuff plus some everyday work tools that I use. And then page 2 is all money, calendar, and I've got the screen time widget here at the top, so keep an eye on things. This widget right here is the Samsung Notes app, and this is really cool because it gives you a bunch of shortcuts to some very powerful tools, which I have gone into in other videos, so I won't go into them now. So just money, calendar, organizational stuff, and then next page is all the fun stuff. And the reason these are not in folders is because if you're going to be using the big screen for anything, one of the best use cases is for movies and entertainment. So that's why I have all of these. This is the entertainment page. And then I've also got this one here, the storage and optimization widget, so I can literally just clear backgrounding as you saw before. And then the fourth page, if I have any apps which I'm just going to use temporarily and I don't need to use them all the time, let's say an app for holiday or something like that, this is what this page will be for. So there we go. So back to the cover display, and you'll notice I still have the stock wallpaper, which does look really nice. It works nicely with the layout and everything. Now you want to think about what kind of wallpaper you're going to use on the cover, because if you go with the sort of Star Wars stuff that I've got here on the inside, if you have it on the outside and anyone sees your phone, they will know you're a Star Wars nerd. But it's entirely up to you. You can customize it. You already know how to do it. Just pinch the screen, go to wallpaper, go to change wallpapers, and once again you can select whatever you want for the inside and outside of the device, and then just reposition it how you want. Hit done. Something that was really cool I just noticed. I want to show you guys this. I've never seen this before either. Oh no, it's gone now. Master Yoda had it was like a sunset effect going on. Not long ago, it looked really, really cool. Now it's gone all dark because the sun's gone. So this next one is just a usability tip that will help you on some of the other pages where you have things towards the top of the screen. You'll notice in my particular setup, I don't have many apps near the top because they're harder to reach. So I don't need to use this as much as some of you might do. I'm going to show you how to do it anyway. So if you go into your settings, go to the search at the top, type in one-handed mode. You'll see it's in the advanced features section within the settings. It's down here and it's switched off. If you enable this, you can bring down the size of the screen just by swiping at the bottom like this. So just to show you that again, between where the Chrome app is and that line at the bottom, just swipe down, shrinks the screen. You can swipe it over to the other side, swipe it back again, and then if you tap anywhere on the empty space, that then expands the page. And this also applies to the big screen. Swipe down here, just between those two apps, shrinks the screen down into bottom right corner. You can flip it over to that side or this side, tap an empty space, and that brings it back to full size. Now, I know some of you watching this will be like, why have you got rid of the Samsung keyboard? Why have you got rid of the Samsung internet browser? Why aren't you using the Samsung Recorder app that has all of the AI stuff in there? Why haven't you got the Samsung Notes app handy? I do have a shortcut here, but there is a good reason why I don't have these on the main screen, and that's because I like to have these on the edge panel. So if you're not familiar with the edge panel, it is this little faint line here, which you should see. When you swipe that out, you'll have all of the default stuff. So what I tend to do on day one is hit the pen there, remove all of this stuff. The first thing I'm going to add to this is a very important one, and it is the Gboard. Once I find it. Having this here means that when I need to switch to the Samsung keyboard, I have quick access to switch back to Gboard just by swiping out the edge panel. The next thing I'm going to add is the Samsung Notes and the Samsung Internet and the Samsung Recorder. All three of these apps have some very powerful AI, which I'm not going to go into in this video. I did do another first things to do video, which kind of shows off all of the superpowers that this phone has. So I'll link that at the end of this one. and that will explain more about what these apps can actually do. I'm just going to add one more thing, and I'm going to show you what that is. It is an app pair. So let me show you how to create an app pair first, and then I'll explain why I have this particular app pair. So I'm going to open the Samsung Internet Explorer, and I'm going to drag that out again, and I'm going to bring on the Samsung Notes app. Now this is a fantastic app pair for a couple of reasons. Both of these apps have AI, so you'll see the sparkly stars here, you'll see the sparkly stars there. If I want to summarize this page like that, I can copy it here and paste it into my Notes app, and then I can actually highlight all of these notes. And here on the Notes app, you've also got a bunch of tools using AI. Actually, when you're within the Notes app, if you switch to the Samsung keyboard, what you can do is take your summary, which is there, select it all here, and then use the Samsung keyboard AI to rewrite it for you. So now you've got the power of one AI, the power of two AI, and the power of three with the Samsung keyboard. And then just remember, if you want to switch back to the Gboard, if the Samsung keyboard is bothering you, you've now got the shortcut here that can allow you to do that very quickly. And this is the last thing I want to show you, is if we bring up that app pair, hit the three dots in the middle, I'm going to add this to the Edge panel as well, because in my opinion, this is one of the most useful app pairs. There is another one that's very useful, which I used to use when I didn't have YouTube Premium, and that was the Google Maps and YouTube. The reason I used to use that is because I could shrink the YouTube window all the way down, still have the Google Maps on the go, and that way it would allow me to play music and podcasts in the background whilst using the maps. Now this next one really isn't a setup tip, but it is something that is super useful, which I think is worth telling you in this video. So let's say you've booked a cinema ticket or plane ticket or any kind of ticket, ideally not a ticket to this terrible film which I bought a ticket for, but let's say that's the QR code there. You could screenshot it if you wanted to, but then once you've done that, it's going to be in your photo library, then you'll have to delete it. There's actually a better way to have tickets and things like this pinned temporarily to your home screen, and it's actually very easy to do using this Edge panel. So if you swipe it out, you'll actually see this little blue square with the white square inside. If you tap this, this is the Smart Select tool. You can then draw around the area you want to copy and pin to your home screen. So I'm just going to crop it right down to just the QR code. Now if you hit the three dots here, you can pin it so that it stays floating on top of your screen at all times. Now if it's distracting, what you can actually do is tap it and minimize it, and you'll notice this little floating pin is just there, and it can be placed anywhere. I'm going to place it up here above the clock. Now let's say I'm going to the cinema and I need quick access to my cinema QR code. Just tap that, scan that, and it's done. And then you can just get rid of it, hit the X, and it disappears. So you can do that with plane tickets, any kind of tickets or any kind of important information you need to keep top of mind for the day. Remember how to use that. It will help you out a lot in the future. Smart Select tool. Okay, this next one is just very, very basic, but it's something worth knowing. Whenever you're using an app, no matter what app it is, let's say Google Chrome, you'll notice your taskbar down here, your docked apps stay here. If you want to get rid of it, just hold your finger down on an empty space next to it. It disappears, and it says here, if you hold your finger again on the same spot, it will come back. So that's just something you need to know if it's distracting you for any reason at all. That's how you get rid of it. So you might be all set up nicely, but you don't have all your photos and videos from your previous phone on this phone just yet. There is a very good tool for doing this, and it is this one. It's called the Smart Switch. This is an official Samsung app. So what you can do is actually download this exact app on your iPhone or your other Android device. So just for demo purposes, I have an iPhone here and I've downloaded the Samsung Smart Switch app on this phone. And there are a couple of ways to do this. On the Samsung phone, you want to go to receive data, and then we can do this via a wire, or we can actually do it wirelessly, which is the easier option, obviously. Then all you need to do is scan the QR code. It creates a hotspot between the two devices, so it would transfer the stuff. So there we go, start searching for the data that's on the iPhone, and then on the next step we can actually choose what we want to bring over. So like I said before, it's best just to bring over the photos and videos, not all of the other stuff, because who knows, you might even end up bringing over some malware or something like that, and that could be a real nightmare. So there we go, it's detected everything. And like I said before, we can just bring over the images and the videos, and we can actually even go into the images and select just the ones that we want. Okay, so now we got all of our apps, we got all of our photos and videos in place. Now let me show you a couple of little tweaks that improve the user experience here on the Fold 6. So if you bring down your quick settings, which is this area here, and you hit the pen at the top, you can add more quick settings to this. And one that I definitely recommend you do straight away is if you scroll across the bottom, you see Dolby Atmos there. Enable that one. You might also want to add the secure folder. This adds a private space for sensitive documents. Also, the ChatGPT one is very good because when you use ChatGPT via this quick setting, it actually acts differently than it does with the widget or the general app. It actually brings it up like a voice assistant, similar to the Gemini, which we have here. Now, the reason I said to add Dolby Atmos is because I believe it improves the sound of the speakers straight away. You might disagree, but I do recommend you test it out and see what you think of it. So while we're talking about quick settings, you'll notice I have to swipe down again to get to them. You can actually speed this up if you want to. If you just go to the little pen icon here, you'll see quick settings, instant access. If you switch this on, now instead of having to swipe down twice, if you swipe down from this top right corner, it brings down all of them in one go. And I just find that way easier. I do that every time with every new device that I get from Samsung. And while we're here within the quick settings, this is something I switch on immediately. It is Wi-Fi calling. The reason I switch this on is because the signal in my area isn't great. So when I'm on the Wi-Fi at home, it will prioritize Wi-Fi calling as opposed to using the bad signal that I get. Now, the next thing I want to show you guys is on the cover screen. So we are getting there very slowly, but hopefully your phone's starting to take shape now. Now, this is another little customization tweak. If you pinch the home screen, go to wallpaper and style again. This time here where you have your lock screen, tap on this, and here we can actually customize what the lock screen looks like. And you probably want to change this depending on the type of wallpaper you're using. So if you tap the clock, you can actually make it bigger. You can change the style, and you can also change the color of that clock across the bottom as well. I'm going to go with the big clock, and we're going to go with green for Master Yoda. So there we go, that's changed that. If I tap on it again, there is some more things we can change here. So if you go to the widgets right underneath the clock, you can actually add some useful information there if you want to. For example, the battery widget could be handy if you have the buds and the watch and all that kind of stuff. Also, maybe the health app. It'll give you a rough idea of how you're doing with your daily goals. And also, I think the clock app can be handy as well. It lets you know if there's any alarms set and things like that. Although if you are using the Google clock, you probably don't want to use that one. And you'll notice the colors actually match the clock as well. So play around with that a bit. Now, while we're also here, there is this very important bit of information where you should probably leave a backup contact detail. It can be an email address, someone else's number, friend and family or something like that. So if you do lose your phone, they can contact you here. Also, the shortcuts at the bottom, you can customize these if you want. And then if you want, you can add effects to your wallpaper. If you want to change up the look, and you can also add frames to your wallpaper. These kind of work better with photographs in my opinion. Not a big fan of the frames. Don't worry, there's only a few more of these left, which I do on day one. This one's very, very important. So if you go to your settings, once again, type in notifications, and you'll see here, you've got the notifications settings. So we go into that, go to app notifications. Here you can actually switch off some of the ones that might be very distracting. For example, some of the social media stuff, it just goes off all the time. You can actually switch off the notifications entirely, so you don't have to hear them every other minute. So go through this and just customize that up. And something else I recommend you do with your notifications is actually change the sound of them as well. So if you go into your settings, use the search tool there and just type in sound. You'll see notification sound. Go to this. And then here you'll see notification sound here. And there's a bunch of different ones. A lot of people with this phone will have the standard notification sound, and there's a bunch of different ones here. If you want to get something a bit different from a movie or a game that you like, the app that I use for those kind of sound effects is this one here. I'm not going to install it right now. There is a lot of advertising on this app, I will warn you of that. But this app has fantastic sound effects. You can get all the Metal Gear ones. I like to use the Legend of Zelda ones, sometimes the Back to the Future sound effects for my notifications. Now, on the topic of notifications, there is another really cool tool, something that I use as soon as I get a new phone from Samsung. It is this color by keyword. So if you just type in color using the search tool, here you can go to color by keyword, type in a name of a family or friend, and then add a color to their name. So I'm just going to add my own name, and it has to be written exactly as it appears in your phone book for this to work. So you can change the color of the notification whenever that particular person contacts you. So it will appear like how you see up here at the top, family members or close friends. That way, whenever you get messages from them, it will pop up in that particular color. And something else that's really cool to do is if you go into your settings, go to search again and type in color. Within this same page here, the notification pop-up style, if you go to edge lighting style, you can actually add a bit more of an effect to notifications when they come through. Some of these are really, really cool. And when you do the color by keyword trick, which I just showed you, the animation will actually be matching that color that you've chosen. Okay, as you notice, this phone is kind of rocking around on this table right now. It's because of the camera module. And this reminds me of something that's really, really important to do. I do have a case preference for this phone, and it is this one here from Thinborn. This is an aramid fiber case, so it's carbon fiber. There is a front cover protector as well, but this adds a nice bit of protection to the back of the device, and it keeps it super slim and lightweight, and it's very, very strong as well. So if it does land on a corner, it will be protected. And also, actually it doesn't stop the rocking on the table that much, but it does kind of reduce it. And the other thing that you should probably do, whether you decide to go for one of these Samsung chargers or not, you should definitely get the right speed charger for your device. So I believe the charging speeds here are 25 watts. If you want a third-party option that might be cheaper than the Samsung one, this Anker one is pretty cool. I believe it's a nano, they call it the nano charger, Anker nano charger. So have a look at the price difference between the official Samsung and the Anker one. This one's cool though, I do like this one. It's a bit faster as well, it's 30 watts as opposed to 25. Now the last couple of things to do before we wrap this up, this is a very, very important step. So if you go into your settings, scroll down to security and privacy. When you open this page, you'll notice all of these green ticks. If there is anything that's orange like this, you definitely need to have a look at it. So as you can see right now, I've got my app protection switched off. We go in here, turn that on. This just adds a bit of additional protection when installing apps and things like that. And it will also scan the existing apps on the device. Now, if you've just done the copy and paste from your old phone, there might be a chance that you've transmitted a virus from that phone to your new phone, and that could be an absolute nightmare. And that's one of the reasons I don't recommend you just full on copy and paste straight out of the box. It's better to start up with a fresh slate, in my opinion. So that's why I do my setups in the style that you've seen in this video. Now, there is one very, very last thing I want to show you. And this is for the people who are a bit more concerned about privacy. This phone has some amazing AI, and I made an entire video showing the features that you can show off to your friends that this phone can do that most other phones can't do out there using AI. But if AI is a bit of a worry for you, what you might want to do is if we just type in AI here using the search tool, hopefully it comes up. Yep, Samsung account, Galaxy AI. Here, go to Galaxy AI, and at the bottom, you'll see process data only on the device. This is for those of you who are worried about AI and them taking over the world. We're not quite there yet, but maybe one day someone will have to send someone else back in time to kill someone else or something. Anyway, I hope you guys got some value out of this step-by-step setup guide. This is how I do it. You don't have to do it like me. Just use this video for inspiration. Now, if you want to create a bit more excitement when you show your friends and family your new phone, check out this thumbnail that's on screen right now. That was kind of a first things to do video, but it's kind of a first features to try out video. And in that one, you'll truly see what this phone is capable of. Appreciate you guys. If you just subscribed, you're now one of the finest subscribers known to man, and I will see you in the next one. Don't be late.